14 bottles of fine booze from.
I got 4 bottles of wine away.
I don't think it was a gambler. So I thought it was like when we were in the Undercity. Like
you may have gotten it from the Elven too.
That's
Either that or I thought it was the desert.
Oh, maybe no. The wine came out of the desert, but I think the booze came out of the Undercity.
Okay. Yeah, plan for that fine booze.
All right, so you guys have done your thing. Ross and Mark, your characters are traveling to the temple way, as it were. You're making your way north across the port market, and there's a fairly clear path from where you've started across to the wall. As you get closer, it's very clear that this wall hasn't been used in a very long time. There's an archway. The portcullis is rusted and up. And very defined. There's guards on either side of it, but very defined. You can see that the port market ends at the wall, and on the other side of the wall, it's very much not the wild crazy that you're dealing with. Also, the arch above the portcullis is marked with now entering the Marshal District.
Okay.
As you travel through the arch into the Marshal District, it's very much a change of scenery. The port market doesn't have any buildings. It's all just vendor stalls and carts. The Marshal District is very much exactly what it sounds. Stone, very nondescript buildings. Some clearly barracks, some clearly armories. Everything well marked. The streets are clean. The cobblestone's very even. Although there's, other than a handful of patrols wandering the streets, there isn't a whole lot of traffic here. However, no one eyes you strangely. You travel, and behind these buildings you can see much closer the 5 spires rising.
Mm-hmm.
And several blocks up you can see you reach an avenue that turns to your left and to your right.
I'm gonna make note of where what would be both smithy, if there's one in this area.
There would be, you would see definite, the signs of a smithy.
Somewhere where I could get raw metals.
Gotcha.
And then also a place, either an armory and a weapon shop if there's one proper, or if are the smithies, do they double as that?
Typically, given what you're seeing, this is definitely more of what you'd expect from an army base.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't necessarily shops, per se. You could note several locations where it's possible you might be able to pick up weapons. However, it's extremely more likely there's other places in the city with more free market smithing.
Okay.
You continue to travel through, and you reach the avenue, and once again, very clearly labeled. The roads actually have street signs, and the road to the left is marked as to the Council District, Parks, and North Market. The road to the right is marked as to the Estates.
Oh, the Temple District's to the left?
The Temple District is beyond the Court District.
Okay, so head that way.
So you take a left and travel for a while through much the same, and a road. You've traveled a distance where you're starting to get past the spires, and a road once again turns to your right, to the east, and is labeled as to the Council District.
I sigh, look at these two like, this is fucking exhausting.
So many goddamn people.
Actually, it's better than the market, but he ain't worth it. Keep walking. He's gonna owe me so big time for this.
As you enter the Council District, it's less defined of a differentiation. However, it does clearly change from very martial barracks and such to a more of offices and courthouses. There's a lot more open space here. In fact, for the first time since you've entered the city, there's trees. And the road, as you're passing signs, it's clearly marked that if you continue to the east, you will eventually reach Temple Lane.
Okay.
After some time of traveling through this kind of more judiciary type district, things start to become a little bit more eccentric, and you reach a sign that says "Welcome to the Arts District," and it's done in very artistic manner.
Just on the top of a building, there's a dildo. Just is this art? I don't know.
The buildings here are a little bit closer together, and there's a lot of studios selling painted portraits and carved statues, more intricate, like silverwork and stuff being sold in shop fronts, in actual shop fronts. All of this behind windows, and once again, signs point you to continue north.
Quick,
go ahead.
No.
quick thing is that Kimon beats any metals, basically. I figured out. Okay, I get bored and I start tossing copper coins, letting him snatch them out the air.
Copper coins at him?
Yeah.
Is he still active?
I don't know, is he?
Oh yeah, I guess good point.
Strangely, Monch doesn't seem to be affected by this.
Okay.
A lot you can notice. I mean, those of you who have any kind of like non-typical magic
Watch a baby wrestling.
would notice that those things do not. They've kind of stopped operating, but
It stops them completely, like an email.
but Monch continues. Monch is just chomping coins, which in the arts district is getting some not like terrified looks, but just some like
a dwarf, a halfling, and what's your cleric?
Human.
A human walking by feeding my
Did you
face.
say human?
Human,
Yes. And
and
It's a spice.
I spice things up.
after a very brief time walking, the art shifts away from more eccentric, random, and into more carved marble and very dour paintings. And eventually, this road, you can see clearly up ahead a gate, not a true gate because there's nothing on either side, but a large arch stands over a very wide road that leads to you guys' right.
Do I see dirty hipsters everywhere in this art district?
Not really. I mean, maybe in parts of it, but not in the area that you went through.
You just see people using perspective to make it look like the statues are.
What about, like, is the art district also like the performing arts?
Could be.
Yeah.
The section you went through, you were going through basically the very north end of the arts district. The arts district extends to the south quite some ways.
Never know when you're going to need to hire a troubadour to help out or something like that.
Beyond this archway and this, once you get beyond that, you can see another wall with a portcullis, and beyond the portcullis, it's very similar to the chaos you saw in the port market. It's clearly a market. This looks a little bit more random.
I'm looking at the archway. I'm looking at that. And I'm looking back at the dirty hippies, and I'm looking at the market. I'm like, God damn, it keeps getting worse.
However, to your right, if you're at the arch, is a long marble road, and along it is very much. There's tons of open space, and there's these. Some of them just huge, garish temples. There would be ones you could pick out clearly.
Yeah.
There's the castle-looking structure that's clearly the Temple of Erroneous.
It's got a big tower, phallic symbol on top.
And
Corella Lotharian just got like trees and
the road continues for quite some distance to the south.
Probably it's just like a random wooden hut.
and nudge the halfling like, Ain't no business like religion.
Yep. We found our goal.
This is not gonna be cheap.
It's okay. We have not enough at all.
Maybe we can mug him. Hold him hostage until he resurrects a friend.
Steal their secrets.
Raised dead is just a bare minimum, right?
Raised dead is a bare minimum.
And that just restores you as what?
You lose a level. And it not just like you lose a level, like if you were at, let's say you were at 35,000 XP, 1,000 away from 9, you drop to level 7, the very beginning of level 7.
Yeah, I know. Which is what I was.
We can probably charm these pillar guards.
Maybe they have a quest for us to do or something like that. Everyone has a fucking quest.
Look for the guy with an exclamation point over his head.
Speaking of, what is
Look
pillars made of?
important.
What style? I don't really know what
Halor is the god of healing.
Very benevolent.
Good.
They are very, very benevolent. Also, in this particular world, Halor was the one god that remained during the Dark Times.
Okay.
Almost all magic disappeared, however, Halor's healers were still present
Let's see.
on the plane.
Nice.
I make my way to the Palor Temple, because that's the one I can resurrect.
Yeah.
Make your way
So
downtown.
you're walking down the road, and
Walking around, having a good time.
there's temples. I mean, you would clearly you'd see like Cord is like a giant stadium, basically.
I make note of that.
And
No
you,
wrestling.
this
Your
isn't
money.
a case where it's only it's not only good mutants you're seeing. I mean, you see Weejoss. There's a temple of Weejoss here. There's other temples within the city, and eventually
You Josh mentioned?
Yeah.
you can recognize. Not that Weejoss isn't in here.
We just praying in there.
Right.
You eventually reach a point where you can tell you're approaching the Temple of Pelor. Now, the Temple of Pelor looks a lot like a Catholic church, kind of.
Yeah.
However, it's all carved out of marble,
It's very ornate.
and on the top of it is a giant sun of marble.
Jesus Christ. You guys got a god player.
Praise the sun!
Yeah.
So you guys are at the Pelorian Temple. We'll hold up there
Praise the Jesus.
because I happen to know that Mark has stuff that he has to read. If he hasn't read this stuff before.
Wait,
He should have been reading stuff this whole time. But so, Tabby, you make your way out of the port market, choosing a more southerly route, which takes you kind of through more middle-class homes. Not middle-class as we expect middle-class today, but they're homes with small yards. It's not densely packed. The roads are wide enough.
yeah.
Clearly, it's people with some wealth,
Other than this, I haven't really.
but
How
not
much have
the
you
most
used?
wealthy.
Right.
Beyond which, you can see, like, beyond these houses, these giant mansions, and just, like, sprawling gardens making up the southern portion of the city.
Probably really heavily been traveling.
And the road eventually curves to the east, and you enter a market, but a market very different in the market you came from. This being an area lined with storefronts instead of carts and people peddling their wares. After a brief time kind of perusing the shops, you eventually would find a jeweler
Okay.
who would clearly be interested in gems.
randomly suggested why.
Drop my
We were
sack
taking names.
of
And
gems and go,
I
I need
wasn't
to
like
read
super
these.
serious about it. I was just like, oh, why? And then she had a dream about it.
Not doing anything.
I was like, yeah, that pretty much seals the deal.
But you're gonna have to carry like $1 billion gold.
I've only known the Hawaiian, so I don't like the game.
Change them in for more valuable single gems.
But
Oh, okay.
as long as it's not a
Something you can keep in like a pouch rather than like
every
Says
fourth
Jen.
I know,
like kind of
fucking weird.
like a pillowcase full of
Money.
platinum coins.
Or Wyatt. but I
He
don't know if
goes
you've ever
through,
known Wyatt.
and so you're going to trade up
My
to a more
Wyatt, I know
lower
well.
quality
super
to a
arrogant.
better gem. I do
Yeah.
have
Okay,
some
what
pieces.
gems didn't you know?
All of them basically. So I just looked them up. I have an aquamarine,
He takes after me though.
Most of you, if there isn't something tied to it, it's just going to be whatever the base value.
Yeah.
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll put me in my place and be like, I'm fucking better than you.
Do you have specifically
think
like
so?
ones?
I have an azurite of good quality and a flawed azurite.
Do you know where you got them?
Nope. Otherwise, that's really the only labeled things. Otherwise, it's just gem names.
Find them. Brief search here.
This is a fire yellow.
Hey,
Fire yellow
yeah,
gem.
I know there's one for real gyms.
Yeah, but that's not a name of the gem.
Like, amen. So.
It's a fiery yellow.
No,
Conundrum.
Village Inn just
Yeah.
declared bankruptcy.
I don't think I
Closed
knew
a whole
how to
bunch
spell
of
for
restaurants.
Oh, must be Minnesota then.
Yeah.
There's two. There's one on the way to Minneapolis. It's right out of there. And there's one.
What's that?
And they're actually owned by brothers.
Huh.
Right outside.
Yeah, Kevin and I always
Right.
found the one out of Minneapolis because it was really
value.
Two of those.
Forest Lake, whatever the hell it is. So,
Really?
but
I'm guessing it's normally used more.
we were walking in
Ultimately, he will give you
There's this little
a
girl
gem that's worth
mom, she's probably like
96% of your total gem's worth
pretty
Okay.
cheap.
in exchange.
And
So, judging by what she wrote down, that's a really fucking
said it
expensive
was
gem.
just
Rhodochrosites are
we
12
were
gold.
walking. She's like,
Oh,
"Where's Caleb?"
Yeah.
I've got
And
two.
mom's
So
like,
it's
"Caleb's
four.
She got a couple written down that say 1,000.
We're gonna, you know, eat
I
this
don't
off
know
that way."
for
She's like,
sure. I just
Oh,
looked it
that
up.
Kaylin. She's such a card.
That's what it said in the grid.
Blue sapphire,
And it was like
Yeah.
perfect
Blue
speed.
sapphires are very
And
expensive.
then
rich purple corundum.
they sat like kitty corner to us.
They're
I was
pretty
listening to
expensive.
her. It
Fiery
was just
yellow
hilarious.
corundum.
The part that got me,
Two gold
Well,
and
it's
yellow
like-
topaz.
her dinner comes, and she had ordered a waffle.
Golden yellow topazes are 50 gold each. The rich purple, you have a rich
And
purple corundum?
she sees it.
That's
She's kind of like a
1100
kid thing
gold.
where they sit on their knees in the couch. She's like talking to mom and stuff like that, and having a
I
very
don't know
open
if it's for the
conversation.
right.
And
What
she
else?
was
I
like,
don't
"Oh
know if it's for the
my, I love
edition.
waffles. Thank you, ma'am. I am
Fiery
so
yellow
excited for
corundum.
this waffle."
Yeah.
And she's like doing like the oh man.
She got the soul of a southern old black
I
lady.
And
saw
like
that.
you know, like
Go back.
moments like that makes you want to have kids, and then
I have
90%
two
of
that
the
were
other moments I
listed
see
at
with
40
kids, I
maybe.
don't want them.
Uh-huh.
But it's just like those one parts
But
that
one of them
this could
had
lead
no
me to have a
kids.
mistake.
I wrote 50 for my two tourmalines.
Yeah, tourmalines I believe are 50.
Oh, okay. I'll just erase this line of two.
Black pearl.
Black pearl is actually used in something, isn't it?
Macedonia.
Raised dead. Yeah.
He's dead.
Oh, that's kind of like raising the dead.
No,
Yeah.
Turn him into a zombie.
Oh, zombie.
No.
Zombie Tom. Oh yeah.
No.
Zombie drill?
Zombie drill.
It's okay.
Bizarro
Sorry.
drill.
Turn him into a zombie and then put a living master on him. So
Uh,
that she won't know.
You just have to understand the correct
It's like
steps.
the opposite
Hell,
of
cut off
Blueface.
his finger,
Just
so you have a
he's
piece of
figure
him.
mask.
Then turn him into a zombie, then true resurrect the piece of him, and then he has zombie Tomadrill, he has Zombadrill, and Tomadrill.
No.
It's how we make my band.
I'm still wholeheartedly against this.
Oh.
This has the drums like you have Alexandrite. I like Jasper and
Tycho drum.
I don't have any Jaspers.
I have a Jasper.
Jaspers are 40 gold.
I have Alexandrite, coral, yellow and gold topaz.
Alexandrite is 40. Or 400 rather.
There's a huge difference between those two.
400.
But let's do this afterwards. But we'll get the gold value.
Yep.
I'm gonna go through the gems.
Okay.
So that's what you're doing.
Yep.
And we'll end with you there. So you guys that are at the temple. You guys are outside the Temple of Pelor.
I divert my cleric first and my rogue too, and be like, we're gonna go this way. Let us know what you find out.
Okay.
You're all alone.
I look at this ostentatious giant temple. I'm like, oh, here goes nothing. And I'm in my dusty armor that's been traveled on. It probably isn't clean with the fucking talking mace. Not necessarily talking, but a hissing mace. And I walk into this temple of goodness. Hooray. Yeah, make my way up probably the many stairs. Of
Yep, yeah, oh yeah, there's quite a stairwell.
It stops about halfway. God damn it.
And there's the doors even are just ornate with pictures of the sun and...
Opulence. That's what it is.
Yeah, they has it.
Oh yeah, that has it.
I get to the door. Is there a fucking acolyte anywhere that I can be seen?
I'm not outside the door, no.
Alright, so is it like a knocker?
No, it's just got the big handle on it, the
So
big brass handle. And as you open the door, immediately just choral singing is coming out.
Throw up a little bit in my mouth.
You get turned.
You hear Ave Maria, a bone
Yeah.
saw pierce.
Ave Maria.
You never want to hear that. The call of the bone saw.
Yeah. I walk in. Just kinda,
And as you step in, it's almost as though you don't step out of the daylight, and it's just opulent, just giant chandeliers filled with candles above this huge hall of worship. And, a member of the clergy comes up to you and, how can we help you, miss?
oh, I'm just appreciating your subtlety. I clear my throat and I look at him, as politely as I could possibly look, which is not polite at all. I say, well, I've come to inquire on how much it costs for raised deads and resurrections.
And you see very clearly his eyes both light up, and he's also kind of like, he doesn't know what to do, and he goes, please allow me to go get one of the priests for you. And he scurries away at, not just like a walk, like a hustle.
Yeah.
And
There's profit in this.
Yeah, but it's just...
he's gone for a bit. And
She's like, this is never good.
Yeah.
Actual Catholic Church.
Yeah.
eventually a older, gray beard, but very well tended. However, compared to his surroundings, he's very much... it's not like he's garnered in silver and, he's got very simple robes on. He does have a silver holy symbol of Pelor around his neck. And he approaches you, and as he's approaching, the scribe from before is, clearly trying to stop him, and he's just, pushes him off, and he goes, come to my office. And he's much more gruff and direct than the pagan.
The scribe was trying to stop him? Interesting.
And that's all he said. Come to my office, and he turns, and he walks back the way he came from.
Alright. I follow him.
Bedtime.
He's, you walk down, it feels like forever down just
Oh, I know what forever to
adornments
get here.
in, statues,
Yeah.
suits of armor, and frescoes on the walls, and he comes to a wooden door, and he opens it,
Yep.
and he just turns and looks at you. And it's not disgust, it's not hate, he just looks at you.
I look back at him like, me first?
And he clearly, it's clearly he's a no-nonsense, and he just kind of makes the motion of just get in.
Alright, so I go in.
He closes the door and he goes, I'm not going to mess with subtleties here. And he goes over, and there's a carafe of wine and fine wine glasses. And he goes, there's just a bookshelf with closed doors at the bottom. He just opens the bottom door and he takes out a bottle that's clearly a hard liquor and 2 glasses, sets it down, unstoppers it, pours 2 glasses, half sets, half tosses one on the table in front of you, and he takes his and just one drink, and he fills it again, and then he sits down. And he goes, I hear you're looking for services in returning the dead.
I go and I grab the drink and I go, same thing. So it's like, I see that you and I have similar interests.
When you do that, you see just like the eyebrow raise, like he pours you another.
And I sit down and I was like, I'm gonna tell you a tale of indentured servitude. And I proceed to tell him how I came into the employ of one flamboyant half-elf that has caused me no end of heartburn and headache. However, I have sworn an oath of protection upon my honor, and I have failed. The only recourse that I see is to resurrect him to his pristine form, and I put Monch on the table. As proof of this bond, I have to deal with this. And I take out a silver piece and I go, and I just drop it in his mouth. And he goes,
And he's got this glass. He's like, drinks it again, fills it up again. He goes, not the strangest story I've heard, nor the strangest thing I've heard. Now, mind you, the clerics here like to maintain the public view of opulence. Helps keep our clergy large and money flowing. I'm not here for that. My family has been clerics of war since the dark times. The stories handed down are of hardship galore, dragging the dregs of society from darkness into light. However, if you haven't noticed, the city is an expensive place. In a case like this, I'm willing to offer my services personally for the base cost here for the supplies to perform such acts. Tops your drink off and he goes, probably going to want to drink that before you hear prices.
I sigh, drink it, and set it back down, like, hit me.
He'll fill you up again.
Yeah. Alright, I'm ready.
Our most basic services to raise the dead are 8,175 gold pieces. While this is quite steep, there are many at times who come for these services, and as such, the supplies are at a premium. However, for better assurance and more protection in returning one from the dead, I can offer a higher level of resurrection for only a marginal increase.
What's the margin?
For 10,630 gold, I could perform a resurrection. Of course, I'll need some time to prepare.
I'll look at him and say, your family's been in the business of Halo for a while, huh? I'm going to offer this information a little bit free of charge. I don't know if you noticed, there's been some grumblings about the Gem of Hextor and a battle coming. It's going to involve the gods. Currently, we were on a quest of such nature when the unspeakable happened to my employer. And you can
tell him what happened to him?
Huh?
Did you tell him what happened to
No,
him?
but I'm gonna.
Okay.
It's like, regale about the Black Dragon and kind of our quest and what it's revolving around and what we faced on the Isle of Demons or whatever it was called. And I said, Devil's Maw. And I said, clearly there's workings here that are larger than such a humble dwarf as myself can understand. And perhaps I'll need to put you in touch with my acquaintance, Talus. See if he recognizes that.
There's no recognition.
Okay. Powerful wizard, hails out of whatever town he was in.
You can see when you mentioned wizard, he's kind of, it's not disgust, he masks it fairly well.
Yeah.
Kind of a sneer, just a...
10,600 gold pieces is a lot. Particularly as it looks around, as seems like business is doing pretty well.
Well, the office you're in is very, very meager.
Yeah. Regardless of how you portray yourselves or what accoutrements you decide to adorn yourself with, business is good. And I also know that performing a resurrection in this town brings in quite a spectacle. It also helps to drum up the faith. It's particular since you're the only ones that are allowed to do it. So maybe we can find some negotiation and I can provide you with the means to create such a miracle.
He's clearly weighing the options. You can roll a sense motive for his retort.
Actually, I think there's sense motive because of the tense amazing. 22.
He is very much speaking the truth. You can see he puts some thought in. He says, "You're probably right that my fellows would like to
Don't you die in my helm.
create this as a spectacle as such. However, I'm willing to bet they will not budge on their price. However, I also am well aware of some accounting issues that may occur within our vaults. And as such, a handful or several bags of coin may not go unnoticed. I will pitch it to my fellows. However, in any discussion with them, you've paid full price.
I'm gonna look at him and say, finish my drink, and say, as a little caveat to this, you'd be resurrecting. Forget what my mom's name is. Did I name her? Thought I did.
Yeah, you did. You met her.
You just referred
Yep.
to me as a bitch.
No.
Tisha.
Do you remember if I named her?
I don't believe I have a name in my notes.
Okay, so I'll figure out a name for her, but I'm gonna say her name. Does it register with him?
He giggles. He goes, makes sense. That's why our ship is in port.
And so you can do whatever you want with that spectacle. But I'd be willing to bet the church that performed such a miracle on such an illustrious, powerful woman as her will garner quite a bit of favor. So maybe we can do a little bit better than 10%.
As I've said, I'm willing to create a 10% discount, not because my fellows will, but because I'm willing to deal with the issues within the vaults when I throw down bags that are a few coins short. He pours himself one more glass and there's like this much left in the bottle. Sticks the stopper in it and he just slides his ego. From one fellow of good drink to another. He raises the glass and toast and he drinks it.
I take the bottle and I take out one of my bottles of fine booze and like sets it on there. I was like, we acquired this in our journeys. Perhaps you'll find a good use for it, and slide it across.
The stopper back in. He sets it down in his little private cabinet down there.
Good day,
And
sir.
looks to we'll be in touch. So at that, we'll pick up there next session.
At all.
We won't wake up at all.
No. I'll come over.
I'm about halfway
I
there.
haven't heard from you in a couple of days, and I'm just like,
Well, halfway there to resurrect him.
you've been
Yeah.
eating me.
No, all I have
I
to
mean,
do.
I'm gathering funds. I've got
A little bit.
a good
Oh, I
fund.
think might
Oh,
have to do
good.
some jobs. Find some nerds in town.
And there will be plenty of opportunities for money to be made, so.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go wrestle in corn. Grease myself up.